Have a good show. Boys, you're up first.
I'm thick. I'm thin. We're in.
People told me that pro wrestling was fake. Pro wrestling is about sacrifice.
Crowd's bonkers.
Let the celebration begin! Only one walks away.
This isn't a game.
Dark Match. So, full disclosure, I did actually get to the theaters this week. I know, what a coincidence, right? But with how the current state of the world is in right now, politics, I wanted to see something light and refreshing. I'm sure a lot of people did. So we did just that and went to the theaters and saw One of Them Days, starring Keke Palmer and SZA, and frankly, it was really enjoyable. Kind of light and airy, not a lot of substance. It's like a modern Friday or barbershop. Just a good time. Just go in, turn your brain off, laugh a little bit. It's just fun. That's all it needs to be. 7.5 out of 10. Solid, good time. I just don't have a lot to say about it, and frankly, it wasn't made for me, so instead, when I got back home, I decided to check out Dark Match on Shudder because I need my horror fix. Come on. So a little backstory. Recently, I've been getting into professional wrestling stuff thanks to Fudge with going to NXT, having people over to watch WWE stuff, and the like, things like that. And while I'm not exactly hooked on it, and I wouldn't call myself a fan or a super fan, I can definitely appreciate the showmanship and the physical stunts on display. Personally, I view it more like a stunt show than anything else, and that's made it a lot more fun to watch once I went in thinking like, oh, okay, this isn't meant to be taken seriously. It's like a stunt show out of an amusement park. Here I go, watching Sinbad again. Damn, I hate that that got scrapped, but oh well. Anyway, if you had to ask me, I would say that Obafemi and Stephanie Vaquer are my current favorites, but they are NXT, so whatever. I don't really care about any of the superstars. I don't know them. Moving on, I heard about Dark Match, starring the wrestler Chris Jericho, who's been slowly sliding into horror stuff for a while now, having cameos in Terrifier 2 and 3. In this film, he has a starring role. Kind of. And the whole idea is to be about what if professional wrestling was real and the matches were actually to the death. Honestly, I can get behind that setup. That's a nice setup. Unfortunately, though, the movie doesn't really know what to do with that. So instead, it ends up a badly shot, mediocre fight night with way too much exposition and trying to do too many things. So let me explain and finally get into it. What is this movie even about? Dark Match follows a small wrestling troupe in the 80s accepting a very well-paying gig for a, quote, dark match in a small venue for very big pay. For those who don't know, a dark match is essentially any show that doesn't affect the main storyline. It's not typically recorded and is pretty much just to sell tickets and have a good time. It's usually in smaller venues and to the side. However, in this movie, it turns out the match is being run by an ex-wrestler who seems to be trying to do some sort of satanic ritual, making the wrestling matches real and to the bloody death. So, like I said, a great setup for a fun horror comedy, right? Unfortunately, no, because the movie isn't really funny, and it seems a little more focused on racism in the 80s and its main characters wandering around getting exposition than it should be the title fights. The matches we do see are fun, don't get me wrong, but they are dreadfully short and interrupted constantly by side characters who don't know what's going on, and the whole film is nauseatingly shot as well, with a ton of cuts, grimy lenses, colored lights everywhere. It is a mess. I understand that the point of all that is to replicate the grime of 80s backroom films, but I feel like that could have been stylized just a little bit better, and the focus really needed to be on the wrestling matches themselves. If anything, they're kind of like a side plot in here. They definitely are needed to happen, but they're never really the focus, except for maybe one. All the other ones have side characters either ignoring the fight completely or just doing something else, and it doesn't really make sense. They need to be the main attraction here. It's everything about the plot. Just, They help push the plot, but nothing else. They're not even a spectacle, just like how wrestling matches should be. There are no wild stunts, no takedowns. One fight is exclusively a fist fight with essentially sharp gloves for some reason. It's boring. A real letdown there, just awful. Thankfully, the acting is all right. for the most part. The main character is a fighter named Misbehave, played by Aisha Issa. She's good, but really needed a lot more to do. She's gruff and no nonsense and fun to watch for the most part, but she just doesn't have too much to do besides wandering around interacting with other people. She doesn't really do much on her own. I would personally like to see more the difference between the character of Misbehave and the actual person whose name we never get, but still, they're supposed to be two different people, and it shows her in the ring persona and how she acts outside of the ring, and they're pretty much exactly the same. It's kind of annoying. Next, there's her co-lead and her boyfriend Jolene, played by Stephen Ogg. It's Trevor's actor from GTA. You've seen the memes.
I asked for a fair day's pay after a fair day's work. Then he kind of got a little angry. So I admit, I kind of got a little angry.
Did you kill him?
What kind of fucking animal do you take me for? No, I didn't kill him.
Oh, fuck.
But I did kidnap his wife.
Oh, no!
He's fine in this movie. There's not really anything to say about him. He's just okay. His relationship with Misbehave isn't really believable though, sadly, especially when he's going out of his way to point out that they are a mixed race couple and people need to get over it. It's the 80s. I understand what the film was trying to do there, but it just felt way too clunky. The exposition was bad. The last character I want to point out is the man running the show named The Prophet, played by the man himself, Chris Jericho. And I am sorry, Chris, I really am, but oh no, you need to branch out or something. This was bad. He's fine for the most part. Again, as the enigmatic cult leader, whenever he's embracing the wrestler persona, that's fine. But then whenever he has to show emotion or break the character and be the person behind the wrestler, it falls flat. It just doesn't feel believable at all. I don't know if that was due to Jericho's delivery or his voice, which is very odd, or what, but I think he needs to be doing something different. Or maybe get a different director, give him some different direction. He needed something. I appreciate what Jericho was trying to do, and I acknowledge his legacy as a WWE superstar, but a little better direction would go a long way, I think, for him. And this wasn't it. Speaking of direction, this film was written and directed by Lowell Dean, which is a real shame since I liked his previous work with Wolf Cop, so he can definitely do zany, gory horror comedy. Why didn't that work here? Granted, I didn't see the sequel to Wolf Cop or any of the director's other films, so maybe he did slide off hard and I just didn't see it. It has been a decade at this point, so I don't know. I hope not, because like I said before, I can see a lot of what he was trying to do with this movie. From the way it was shot, paying homage to grungy 80s films and backroom wrestling matches, to at least trying to have social commentary about racism in the 80s, to even women wrestlers as well. Took a while before we got those, remember? But I don't think any of these topics in particular had enough nuance or focus to feel particularly fleshed out, at least enough. And at the same time, the story really suffered too in this. This film is bloated with strange filler that goes nowhere, characters that get barely any screen time whatsoever, and we're supposed to remember who they are. Like, I think Thick and Thin have their one scene and that's it. Okay, cool tag team name, that's it. Ugh, just weird. And there's messy camera shots and just worst of all, the boring wrestling matches. They're supposed to be the highlight. They should be very creative and very gory. I want the mat to be drenched in blood. I want viscera and body parts everywhere, and you just don't get that. There's barely any gore at all aside from like a squib here or there. Sure, there is blood. One character does get a face mashed in slightly, so that's something. And there's at least one fire stunt, but it's all handled so quickly and shot so poorly that some of them don't even make sense. Like that fire stunt, it just happens out of nowhere too. I get that they set it up, but you don't see it light, or maybe you do and I just blacked it out because I was so bored. It's a real pain in the ass. If I were to make this movie better, I'd personally probably rewrite the entire thing and have the matches be much more important and longer. Essentially, I feel to make it better, you would need to think of each match like a mini TV episode leading up to someone dying in a gory, creative way, and also including classic wrestling moves like a spear or a backbreaker. Someone needs to go through a goddamn table. Come on. That is very obvious, at least to me. Anyway, You treat it like that and it works more like a TV show ramping up tension until the finale, and that just doesn't really happen here. The matches are just so poorly thought out, there's no real tension whatsoever. As it stands, there really isn't anything in this movie for anyone. Maybe if you're a huge fan of Chris Jericho, but otherwise, this really ain't it, Chief. It's poorly made, poorly thought out, and the only saving grace are the actors who clearly deserved something so much better. They were at least trying really hard, so I feel bad for them. This is a skip. Don't even bother. There are better wrestling movies out there. Except Rumble. Don't watch Rumble. Whatever you do, do not watch Rumble. So ultimately, Dark Match gets a 4 out of 10 from me. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around for another one. Yeah, I kinda like wrestling a little bit now. Like I said, I wouldn't call myself a fan or anything, but I very much enjoy the sportsmanship and the athleticism on display. There are so many girls who do splits and kep-ups, and just all of that's really, really cool. I think the stunt work is really interesting, especially when you have people who need to punch each other but very clearly can't punch each other, because yeah, the whole point is not to get hurt, but sell it like you are getting hurt. I get it. That's fun. That's kind of interesting. I like seeing all the theatrics around here and there too, like how someone will climb under the canvas to pop out if they need to do a surprise or something, or how they'll set up the tables for people to go smashing through them, or how the ladders are actually, I believe they're fiberglass, which is very strange, but all of it's just really, really cool to see from like a behind the scenes or technical standpoint. I'm not going to speak for the children who watch it and maybe believe it, but that's fine. But everything else, this sportsmanship and athleticism, just top notch. I love all of that. I think it's really cool. Also helps out a lot of these people are incredibly hot. Holy shit, some of the women on display. Jesus fuck. Crush my head between your thighs any day. Stephanie, I love you. Okay, I simp over enough things. Let's not simp over wrestlers. But anyway, did you guys see Dark Match? Do you like wrestling? Do you like Chris Jericho? Let me know in the comments below. What did you think? After that, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a video. And yeah, that's it. Have a great day. And if you're not, have a better one. See ya.
I'm just a ghost in your stereo. The fading memory of a shipwreck in the undertow. You're just a lost song on your own. And I'm just a ghost in your stereo.